1. Blog Talk Radio.
Contra Radio Network, Preparedness Radio, with your host, John Jeffers. And good evening. Welcome to another episode of Contra Radio Network. I'm your host, John Jeffers, founder, executive producer here, and I'm your humble host. If you want to call in tonight, our number is 516-453-9389. Again, get your pencil and papers ready, and our number is 516-453-9389. Now, if you don't want to listen, you can. You don't have to. You can always go to the Facebook, go to the Contra Radio Network group page. You can catch the video as we do the show live. That's right. Dawn, Contra Dawn, is hanging out. She's lurking again. She scares me. You know, tonight, I got Porky Will checking in as well here on the video feed. You know, tonight I'm hoping to get a Cyber Patriot to call in. Now, if you're not familiar with Cyber Patriot, he's called in a few times. He's always got some good information. So good, as a matter of fact, is his information. He's actually started his own group, his own company. It's called the Sentinel Intel Group. And I've posted a couple of his stuff, including his website. It's important to have fresh intel when you can, especially up-to-date stuff. Now, tonight, one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight is something that... oh, man. I was watching this Vice channel. Hey, Mike Kelly's in from the Dakotas. We don't get Mike in too often, but he's a good man. I like him a lot. Well, of course, I like most of the people that listen to my show because it just shows that great minds think alike. So we're all here at one time. And Tim's in the chat room as well. And Gary, he's in the video chat room. Everybody's showing up tonight. Because tonight we're going to talk about America's cyber civil war. Some of you are aware of it. Many of us have participated in it without really realizing what's going on. As I was telling you, I was watching this network called Viceland. And they had this show on called, what was it called? Cyber War. And I got to tell you guys, have you ever heard of a conservative activist by the name, he goes by the handle Baked Alaska? They were interviewing him. Now, needless to say, on Viceland, it's really, I'd like to refer to it as Thug Channel, because that's what, that's everything from the, and this guy that's doing the show, he obviously has a predisposition towards the liberal viewpoint. True, I don't like liberals. I don't like what they have to say or what they think. And I have to tell you something. I got to tell you something. Before you start calling in, let me get through this, and then we'll open up the lines and let you people go crazy. Because I know you're going to. So what I want to do is, I want to explain a little something to you. Let me get this moved down so I'm not looking, it looks like I'm looking up at the ceiling. All right. Okay. I think what I want to do first is this. Oh, where is it? I made some notes. Now let's look at the definition of cyber warfare. It's been defined as actions by a nation or state to penetrate another nation's computers or networks for the purposes of causing damage or disruption. But other definitions also include non-state actors such as terrorist groups, companies, political or ideological extremist groups, hacktivists, and transnational criminal organizations. Some governments have made it an integral part of their overall military strategy, with some having invested heavily in cyber warfare capability. So cyber warfare is essentially a formalized version of penetration testing in which a government entity has established it as a warfighting capability. Yes, the United States is very much involved with this, as it should be. This capability uses the same set of penetration testing methodologies, but applies them in the case of United States doctrine in a strategical way. 2, 1, prevent cyber attacks against critical infrastructure. reduce national vulnerability to cyber attacks, and minimize damage and recovery time from cyber attacks. Now, offensive operations are also part of this national level strategies for officially declared wars, as well as undeclared secretive operations. Now, cyber propaganda is an effort to control information in whatever form it takes and influence public opinion. It is a form of psychological warfare, except it uses social media, fake news websites like CNN, and other digital means. Hacktivism. It's a politically motivated hacktivism. It involves a subversive use of computers and computer networks to promote an agenda and can potentially extend to attacks, theft, and virtual sabotage that could be seen as cyber warfare or mistaken for it. So now we got an idea of what it's defined as. I got good news for you conservatives out there. And I happen to agree with Baked Alaska on a couple of points he made, and I wanted to share it with you because, when I heard this, I said, you know what? This is the subject of my next show. America is involved at this moment in a civil war. Think about it. We are involved in a cyber civil war. Don't believe me? I challenge you to go on Facebook and look at what's being put out there. Now, the one thing, well, there's a couple things. One, the alt-right, in fact, I say alt-right because I want everybody to understand what we're talking about. Conservatives are winning this cyber civil war. You're saying, how can that be, John? The MSM is against us, ... You know what? One thing you have to realize, and the left wing will never, ever, ever win because they cannot accept, they cannot and will not accept the reality of one simple thing. Donald J. Trump won the election and is the president of the United States. The left wing believes Hillary did. And they just toil away in this fantasy world. And they will never be able to win the cyber civil war until they are willing to admit reality. And the reality is Donald J. Trump won the election, and he is the president of the United States. Period. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about here. Let's take this a step further. Now, this was written on August 12th by Mike Adams. And so it's a little dated, but I want you to follow this because there's not a lot of people talking about this. But it's true. The article is Radical Left-Wing Fascism and Intolerance Meets Right-Wing Nationalism and Resistance. Why this all ends in a civil war. Now, one thing we have to take a look at is this. Yes, it is true. There are times when the cyber civil war crosses into the real world, our environment in which we live. Generally speaking, it happens when you have groups like Antifa and whatnot, and they meet with their the conservatives on the field of battle, whether that's a city block or a street, the protest, the counter-protest, you know what I'm talking about. It has a tendency to spin there, so, to meet, and they clash. So yes, blood has been shed already in this cyber civil war. So I want to take it. I want to get this out to you because I found it very interesting. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you something. I wasn't going to, but I am. I am on Gab. Gab.ai. I like it better than Twitter because there is no gulag at Gab.ai. There just isn't. So, they talk about free speech. It's a wild west there at Gab.ai. So I have people who follow Contra Radio Network. I want you to know something, and I'm putting it out there because, you know what? You deserve to know. And I've got nothing to hide. Yes, I was friended a couple weeks ago by Stormfront and a couple of other left-wing neo-Nazis. I have not followed them back. I don't believe in their ideas. I do not share their ideology. I have not followed them back, and I will not. I just don't. Now, I know some people out there might, but that's not my problem. That's your issue. You know what they say, not my circus, not my monkeys. All right? My point is this. Yes, I do get some follows from people I'd rather not have follow Contra Radio Network because they believe it's something that jives with their worldview, and this really doesn't. CRN really doesn't. So anyways, the entire left-wing media has erupted over the so-called white nationalist protests in Charlottesville, where right-wing groups are protesting the systemic destruction of war monuments and white history in general. Now, it's worth noting that if the same event were flipped to Muslims or African Americans or women, it would be heralded by the left-wing media as courageous resistance against tyranny and oppression. But because the attendees are mostly white conservatives, the event is portrayed as a neo-Nazi, almost KKK rally-ish in nature, which is, of course, a wild misrepresentation of what's actually happening there. As usual, the left totally freaks out over everything and sees pointy white hats everywhere they look. Now, the core assertion by the left, by the way, is that white people have no right to history or culture. Thus, all monuments, flags, and history of white America must be wiped clean in a kind of cultural genocide run by the intolerant left. While the culture of African Americans, Muslims, progressives must be celebrated and rewarded, all symbols of white America are to be demolished in a style that frankly looks a lot like Communist China's Cultural Revolution. Now, meanwhile, radical left-wing groups are arming up all across America, the group called Redneck Revolt. Yes, they are commie left-wingers. They are recruiting soldiers across 30 U.S. cities and posting documents to their website that teach leftists how to carry out acts of terrorism, torture, and mass executions against their intended political enemies. Another group called the Red Guards Austin is a heavily armed left-wing terrorist group operating out of Austin, Texas. They wear red bandanas, carry the Tommy gun, AK-47s, and call for an armed revolution against the government. Note, the left-wing media never calls such groups dangerous or hate-based. Rather, such descriptive terms are reserved exclusively for right-wing groups, even though it's the right-wingers who aren't openly threatening everybody with mass death, as the extreme left groups openly do. Yet the left-wing media ignores all that, choosing instead to completely freak out over right-wing protesters in Virginia who don't want their statues torn down, nor their history memory hold. The Far Left Watch website keeps tabs on left-wing extremism and violence across America, noting that such left-wing violence is always given a pass by the media, as well as watchdog groups such as the ADL. The NPR, New York Times, and WAPO will never describe radical left-wing terror groups as engaging in anything other than honorable, ethical resistance, even if they're openly calling for mass murder and the overthrow of the government. Now, here's why this all is a civil war. Why does any of this matter? Well, it's simple. Thanks to the extreme censorship of Google and Facebook, there is no longer any allowance for public debate on the political or social issues of our time. The radical left, which includes the cult of Google, simply believes that they have the right to silence all those with whom they disagree. Left-wing protesters at UC Berkeley even believe they have a right to preemptively murder conservatives in order to halt them from speaking. The left has become the fascist bully party of America, engaging in the actual fascism they ridiculously claim is somehow victimizing them. This is, of course, the entire philosophy of cry bullies. They bully everyone else while claiming to be the victims. The real fascism in America today is squarely rooted in the distorted philosophy of the left. Bigotry, intolerance, and hatred disguised as inclusiveness and diversity. Now, the governor of Virginia has even declared that conservatives have no right to assemble in public, denying their clear right to gather in groups to protest what they see as gross injustice against history and their culture. Naturally, if the protest groups were any color other than white, no such denial of their right to assemble would dare be issued nor uttered. Because no debate is allowed on any meaningful topic anymore, thanks to outrageous censorship of all conservative channels by Facebook, Google, YouTube, and Twitter, the trend now pushes America toward extreme polarization. Where the two sides can no longer talk to each other, and one side is systematically suppressed by the leftist-leaning internet gatekeepers like Google, it only leads the two extremes to move further apart in terms of ideology. Now, it seems clear to me that this cultural split of America has passed the point of no return, leading us to escalation into bloodshed and violence. America, it seems, is just one trigger point away from descending into open warfare on the streets of major cities where leftists have become intolerant, racist bigots who call for the extermination of whites, while right-wingers have become tired of being oppressed, denigrated, and verbally abused at every turn. If you like, I will post a link to that particular article if you would like to read it sometime on your own. Now, the left cannot win the cyber war because they refuse to acknowledge the reality that Donald Trump won the election. So if they want to win the cyber war, then the leftists need to be in the real world, not a fantasy world where Hillary won and Donald Trump and his supporters stole it from her. The left has no more ideas for the improvement of our country. Instead, they focus on fantastical ideas where Trump is to be impeached for crimes that are just not real. Winning an election is not a crime, and according to the leftist guru, Barack Obama, elections have consequences, except, of course, when the Democrats lose. Speaking of losing, since the election of Donald J. Trump, the Dems have not won one election. The main focus is threefold. One uses political means to overthrow or delegitimize the president, and the second is to attack conservative supporters of the president by making scurrilous charges to any media outlet that will listen. And the third is to incite riots in the cities and then blame them on Trump and his supporters, especially if the conservatives dare to defend themselves or to avail themselves of their own First Amendment rights. So, you're right, Mike. He will never be impeached. Now, I'm waiting. Hopefully, Cyber Patriot will be calling in. One thing I want you to understand, memes. You know what I'm talking about? You see them on Facebook? The pictures with somebody, imposes a particular message, text message on the picture, publishes it. The left isn't very good at it. The right is very good at it. And has, at one time we were, the right was actually getting, hammered in the social media. Not anymore. No longer. It doesn't happen that way. So now it has appeared. Okay, what do we got here? Let me catch up on this. We got this. Okay, it looks like Dawn has a date night tonight. I hope her husband has protection. Any more little Dawns running around the planet could be hazardous to all of us. In the meantime, we've talked about it many times on the show, just how close. And, as a matter of fact, Chuck, he calls in. We've all talked about it. You've all heard it. You've been listening to this for a while, the last 6 months. We've talked about it. We've made very good episodes for the show based on it. And as we've always said, it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time before somebody starts shooting at these protests and counter-protests. I'm trying to, I don't want to go there with this one at this particular time, so I'm not going to bring this point up. But needless to say, we are engaged in a cyber civil war. And while it is true, social media platforms such as, as Facebook and others, is by targeting conservatives and our speech, inviting more and more discussion, they'll eventually turn to this. Yes, you look at the cyber playground, look at the cyber world, look at it here in America. Now, I'm not saying that it's not happening all over the planet. I can't speak to that because I don't know. What I can speak to is what I've seen myself and what you've seen. And if I'm wrong, by all means, call in and tell me, John, you're wrong. You're not right about this. But what we've seen is this: continued polarization between the left and the right. There was a time where we might be able to yell at each other, but now we're going beyond vitriolic conversation and outright disdain for each other. You know, if you read some of the history accounts, white history accounts of the first American Civil War, if you look at the 1850s and read up on it, you will see the same kind of vitriolic language being used then that's being used now. Think about it. Think about what you've read, what you've seen, what you've heard. And the fact of the matter is, half this country does not trust or believe the so-called journalist. Any ethical standards they once had are now gone, thrown to the wind. They've thrown their lot with the left. Unfortunately for them, the left is and will continue to be slaughtered in the elections because they don't have any ideas. You can only scream about the election and Donald Trump for so long before people say, this is all you've got. And you listen to them, some of their leaders, like Nancy Pelosi, who clearly is delusional and is in dire need of medication. You listen to Schumer saying that it's racist to only let citizens vote in elections. It's not racist, you moron. It's in the Constitution. It's the law of the land. As a lawyer, you would think he would know that. And he does. He just chooses. He chooses to engage in this nonsense. Because let's face it, the left has their social justice warriors. These people have no idea what they're protesting. They just wait for their leaders, and they are there, to tell them what to think and what to say, and then unleashes them. Vladimir Lenin referred to them as useful idiots. You can't argue with the man. What we're seeing is a continued use of these people. You know, the social justice warriors believe that anybody on the right, conservatives, libertarians, we need to be put to death. And they're willing to put you and me on the wall to do it. The question is this, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. You know, we've all seen the little post about November 4th, how the left is going to go out and do, who knows what the hell they're going to do. Yeah, they've been threatening violence. You know, they sit there and say, resist, resist. Resist what, morons? They can't even tell you. They can't. They don't know. They just don't know. But their college professors will sit there and pound it in their little brains. You got to go do this. You have to believe in groupthink. The collective is all. This country was not made or founded upon the idea of a collective. It was founded on the idea of an individual. The individual. The individual being more important than the state. But I don't know. I'm just preaching to the choir with you right now about that. Let's see what we have here. All right, Donald. Okay, are you guys ready? I mean, I don't have a lot of time, but Dawn wants to call in the worst way. If you're on the Facebook video feed and you're watching the show through that, that's great. Well, apparently she's back. So we'll see what happens with her. She calls in. Oh, here we go. Oh no, this is Chuck who can't hear anything. Go ahead, sir.
We'll see what happens with her. She calls in. Here we go. Oh no, this is Chuck.
Chuck, turn it down, bud.
Go ahead, sir.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I can't hear your voice at all through concert radio. I heard the beep and I was taken off of mute, but go ahead, sir. I don't think it's happening.
All right, go ahead, buddy. All this valuable time. Come on, Chuck. Kick it out, man. Look, while we're waiting for Chuck to figure out what's going on with his phone, what I want to say is this. If you want to do a show here on Contra Radio Network, get a hold of me, let me know. ContraRadioLive.com. Go ahead.
Sorry about that, John. I can't hear a word that you're saying, so I can't interact with you at all. So, not sure what's going on.
Say what you want to say.
Hang up. I tried calling you a couple times. Same problem. Yeah. Sorry about that, John. I can't hear.
Chuck, just say what you want to say, pal. And remember, I got less than an hour. For once, the problem's on somebody else's side now.
All right. Well, I did listen to what you were saying for the past 27 minutes, and I will say this much: it's a very one-sided and biased society that we're currently living in right now. It's not reciprocal. It's not balanced or equal whatsoever, and a lot of it has to do with the conspiracy between mainstream news agencies, school teachers and educators, and Hollywood left. It makes absolutely no sense why everything that's being afforded to the left for having a mouthpiece through mass media, we're not getting the same treatment because we support Trump, because we voted for Trump, or because we are the alt-right or conservative, when all the problems that are occurred in their country that's happening right now is truly their fault, but they don't take any accountability for it. They point the finger, they keep on going, there's no two-way interaction happening, and that's why we are a polarized society, absolutely divisive. Our fabric, I'm not sure will ever be repaired, that we can be Americans like we all should be, because whatever happened, the left pretty much broke away from that, and now, we're having a social civil war right now, a battle of words through social media, as well as through the news, screen Fox News and CNN and whatever, which I guess is a lot better than us shooting each other like a real-life violent civil war, but the problem with that is it can escalate. Right now, it's more or less civil discourse. If you can call, pointing the finger at the other guy, but not listen to a damn thing the other guy has to say, is civil discourse. I guess that's the best we can accept from liberals at this point. So that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Okay. That was our good friend Chuck. He's having some issues with his equipment. Not a problem. I'm sure he'll get it remedied before we know it. All right. Is he right? I think he is. And because we were involved in this cyber civil war, now granted, hey, look, I'm just like you. There are times I don't even get on Facebook. I don't even want to engage with these idiots. However, there comes a time where we have to. We have to engage with them. I'm not willing to surrender to these people anymore. I put up with 8 years of that nonsense. And I put up with another year of the. Hey, look, I'm not saying the Trump administration is my dream team, but I got to tell you something. There are 2 sets of rules out there, and I did a show on it based on that because there are 2 sets of rules. One for the government and one for the rest of us. I am really getting sick and tired of waiting for the Department of Justice to get off its lazy ass and do something it doesn't want to do. Namely, they don't want it to do or enforce anything against another government official for fear if and when they lose another election, then the other side will do the same to them. They'd much rather they just be forgotten. Well, it is true. The American public has a short memory. There are a handful of us who do not have a short memory, who do remember and will remember the fact that the IRS was weaponized against conservatives in the 2012 election. And not one person has had to answer for that. Not one. We have, you want to talk about collusion? Let's talk about collusion. Here's one for you. How about Hillary meeting with the Russians and selling America's uranium and them profiting off it? There's Russian collusion. How about this collusion? Former president meets acting attorney general on tarmac at airport. I want to see the transcripts. They got them. I want to see them. And they won't let us see it. You know why? Because it's so inflammatory. There would be no other reason for them to deny a prosecution of it if it's what I think it is. I've had it. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to sit there and play with these people. I don't care. Call me. They can call me every name in the book. I've been called worse names by better people throughout my entire career. And guess what? They ain't it. And besides, do you think I care about what the other side says? This is the group who can't decide which freaking washroom to use in public. Now, are there left-wingers out there that are training for violence? Yes, it's true. What do you think Antifa does? They sit in their mom's basement, they go to the YouTube videos, and they watch how to. And then they try to put theory into practice. What they don't understand is that when you are involved in a fight, whether it's a street fight or any other fight, experience does count. The more fights you're in, the more experienced you become in fighting. Most of the millennials don't have a clue how to fight. They don't. Think about it. Think about when you and I were in school. I can think of 3 times I was in a fight in the classroom. I lost all 3, except the last one. The 4th one I won. Why? Because I got better at it. Hello? When I became a cop, did I lose any fights out there? A couple. There's always somebody out there who's bigger and badder than you are. Sometimes you run into them, sometimes you don't. But I'll tell you this. I'm not afraid to fight. I'm not. Got over that fear decades ago. Do I like to? No. Will I? Yes. The point of it is this. The only thing the left knows how to do is call names and live in this fantasy world. And here they are trying to engage us in a cyber civil war. And this war will boil over into the real world. It is true. You could bet on it. I'm not saying to go out there, find your nearest liberal and pound the hell out of them. No. Have the war of ideas. Listen to their shrill voices hit higher octaves than Frankie Valli did with the Four Seasons. as they scream about racism and whatever hell else they want to bitch about. What's the current offensive for the day, for the week, for the the morning, the night, the afternoon? Who the hell knows? These are the same people who couldn't get over the election and had to have classes canceled because of their college students. They couldn't deal with the reality of the situation. Who had to have coloring books and Play-Doh given to them to soothe their souls. These are the same people that are allowed to vote. Yeah, I know. If only there was, I'll tell you, I'm starting to think there should be some kind of a test, a poll test, before allowing someone to vote. But I just can't think of one that would be fair to everyone. And I want to be fair to everyone. I don't want to be fair to stupid people. It's bad enough that stupid people have children, and they make more just like them. That's not fair to the rest of us who have children, raise them ourselves. We don't abandon their kids to the school system and say, here, it's the school's business to raise them. No. Case in point, Cook County had the sugary beverage tax, the soda pop tax. And leading up to the repeal, because they did repeal it this week, Tuesday, I believe it was repealed. It was so bad. But Bloomberg and his cronies had this commercial that was airing here in the Chicago market. And in it, they talk about how sugary drinks are so bad and the companies are targeting inner city children, and there's dialysis machines popping up all around the churches. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not the government's job to regulate what your child eats. It's the parent's job. If you have children, it is your responsibility to raise them. Not mine. I raise my own. Not yours. You got your own children to raise. Not the government's job to raise them. It sure as hell isn't the school. But in the certain districts of the state is almighty. The schools are the education centers for these minds. How many times do we have to read about a teacher standing on the flag or being caught on video saying something outlandishly stupid that is so left wing, and we sit there and think, my God, when will the adults take over the school districts again? When? There's a war on. We've seen it. InfoWars. There is a war on for your mind. He's absolutely right. And we were involved in a cyber civil war that we cannot afford to lose. We cannot afford to lose this war. But if it's going to happen, it will spill out into the real world. I got to tell you guys, there are some days I just sit there. You know what? I'm tired of the threats. I'm tired of your violence threats because of my political beliefs. Bring it. I'm ready. I'll be 54th Saturday. I am more than willing to go to the streets. I have skills. I have training, as do many of you. I'm getting a little sick and tired of being threatened with violence because of my own political beliefs in a country where my political beliefs are mine alone, and no one can shut them down. For the love of God, if you think about it, look at the ballots. You have members of the Communist Party on our voting ballots. Let them. They're never going to win, but they're there. Who in the hell are they to threaten my safety, my family's safety, because they don't like my political opinion? They can. What? Let's say it together, people, because you know where I'm going with it. They can kiss my ass. You want to fight? Fine. I've got no problem with it. I got time. I won't lose my job. I'm retired. I'll go to jail and still get paid for it. Think I care at this point? I've had it. And so should you. That's right, Tim. My political beliefs are rooted in our Constitution. All our political beliefs are rooted in our Constitution. What is not is the threat of violence upon me for expressing my political beliefs. You don't like my political beliefs? Go start your own damn internet radio show. Or just call this one. As long as it's something that I can get on board with, I'm okay with it. Most of the time, I'm okay with it, even with Dawn. When Contra Dawn starts going off, there are times I just go, oh, please, not tonight. But I let her go. I've never chastised her, nothing. I may laugh at her. I'm even calling her a showing a few times just to get her going. But, you know, she has her own beliefs. Most of you, I let you call in and say pretty much whatever you want. I really don't care. What I won't do is I won't put up with any liberal crap. I've had it. You know, you don't get to threaten other people, destroy private property in the name of your political beliefs, and attack other people because you don't like their political beliefs. This has happened throughout. It happens all around the world every day. That doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean I have to put up with it, and I'm not going to. So, to any leftists that are listening, and I'm sure you do, go ahead. I'm ready. I am ready. And I will put my tactical knowledge, my tactical training up against yours anytime. I will. But I've had it with it. I'm not putting up any more with the threats of violence. They want to bring it on. Go ahead. Come November 4th, please. You know what? I would like it even better if they would stay in the Democratic-controlled cities. You know, with all the mayor, like Chicago has, you know, Democratic mayor. Destroy their city. Stay the hell out of mine. Stay the hell away from me. Come near my place, I'll meet you force on force. I've got no problem with that. I don't want to, but I will. I'm not afraid to. Anyways, so this cyber civil war, the right is winning. The conservatives are winning the cyber civil war. The mainstream media will never, ever, ever give the right any type of a break, so to speak. They will condemn, 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 and condemn. So don't hold your breath expecting the mainstream media to come to the aid. Because I'll tell you right now, when violence starts, we've seen it. When violence breaks out, mainstream media comes and says it's the right's fault. Then a few days later, as videos of the particular incident surface, we see a completely different story unraveling. And I don't care what color you are. I don't. What I care about is the content of your character. If you are a thug and you have a thug history, then you are a thug. If you're a hardworking American, then you're a hardworking American. I don't give a flying flip what color you are. I said earlier in the show, there are neo-Nazis that follow this show. They follow CRN on Gab. There are others types, and I check them out before I even follow back. I check them out. I look at what they've posted in the past because past performance counts. And if it's something that is just not me, or I don't buy into their, whatever it is they're selling, I don't follow back. I said, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what ethnicity you are. I care about who you are, what you are. Are you a person who's been trying to bust their ass, trying to make it the last 8 years in this economy, who've lost their house, you've been divorced, You see your kids every other weekend. Look, I've been there. I know. Those are the people I want listening to me. Those are the people I want to be preppers. And don't forget, the mainstream media has equated patriotism and nationalism, that is being proud of your country, as being racist. No. If you're proud of your country, now you're a patriot and you're a nationalist, you want to see your country do well, that makes you an American, a proud American. And if you're one of those people that hate America, nobody is begging you to stay. Nobody. Feel free to get on the next plane out, or next train, or drive, swim, fly, I don't care. Get out. No one's begging you to stay. They just aren't. So now you know where I'm at. You know what I'm thinking here. So, where does that leave us? As a patriot, I believe all of you should be prepared. Yes, Tim, exactly like that. You know, he says an America hater like our former First Lady. You know, if she wasn't proud of a country before her husband became president, she really isn't proud of it now. You know, old saying, my country, right or wrong. Sometimes my country's been wrong, but still my country. I still believe, as naive as I might be, I still believe in the promise of equal opportunity. I believe in law and order. I believe one set of rules for everybody, not two sets. I believe in respecting other people's rights. My rights end where their rights begin, and vice versa. I have a right not to have my safety threatened for my political beliefs, and they have a right to get the shit kicked out of them if they try it. There you go. Like I said, I'm not afraid to fight. I've done it a lot. I don't want to, but I will. And if November 4th they want to try to overthrow the government, depending on where they are and where I am, I'll meet them. And I know you will too. You know, got no problem with that. But that's the promise. This cyber civil war is rolling. It is rolling, folks. And it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well for the left. And if I have it my way, I want the left to be destroyed by it. The sooner the better. I want the Democratic Party to be totally destroyed. I don't care if they come back with a new name, but their philosophy of threatening and acting like spoiled children is over, in my book. I'm not putting up with it. And neither should you. You know what? People do have the right to disrespect our flag. And we have the right to think of them as a bunch of, plug your ears if you have sensitive ears, because Tim is right. We have a right to think of them as a bunch of assholes. Who in the hell else in the world who plays a kid's game for millions of dollars decides that they're oppressed? Explain this to me. We're oppressed. Really? Well, I'll tell you what. Pay me $500,000 a year, and I'll be oppressed with you, okay? If that's how it works, sign me up. I'll do it. Oh. Ann Arbor, Michigan. They're having their city council meeting. 4 of these numbnuts take a knee during the pledge. One of the numbnuts actually takes a knee, but puts his hand over his heart. So what's he telling the world? He's telling the world that he's an easily led moron who has no idea why he's doing what he's doing. He has no clue. None. Think about it. Idiots taking a knee. No, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because that would be too much even for my show. Maybe some other time I will. All right. So how are you going to respond to the cyber civil war? I would suggest this. I would strongly suggest, 1, get involved. I've lost more than a handful of friends since I started doing this show, and the fact that now I can let my true political feelings be known to the world. Some people I thought were my friends. Turns out they're not. Oh well, don't care. Don't care. Sometimes being a patriot, being a prepper, and speaking the truth has a price to pay. And if it means that, I lose a few friends, a handful of friends, a little bit more than a handful, so be it. At least I'll be true to myself, and I still have you, the listeners. I don't have enough fingers to count all the listeners. I know that I'm not alone. I've got like-minded people out there who aren't afraid to say what they mean, aren't afraid to hide behind an anonymous keyboard and threaten people. I mean, if you're a man and you want to go there and wear a dress, I really don't care. I don't. Do I find it silly? Yeah. Do I care about gay rights? No. As far as I'm concerned, you got the same rights as I do. No less and certainly no more. Do you think I care who you're having sex with? Oh, yeah. I don't. You know what? I got other things going on in my life, and tell the truth, I really don't care. That's your business, and you're going to have to deal with whatever those consequences bring. So don't let them throw you. They want to throw out bigot and racist. Those cards are so played out, you can't even see them anymore. They're so thin. By the way, if you want to drive a liberal crazy and they play the race card, say, I'm sorry, we don't accept the race card here. That will drive them nuts. Done it a few times, and they go absolutely ballistic. Say, sorry, I don't accept that card here. What? Yeah. I don't care what color you are, like I said. What I care is, are you a prepper? Are you a patriot? Are you going to be a drain on the government, your neighborhood, your community, if you will? When the grid goes down, are you going to be ones going to be able to provide for your family, provide for yourself, maybe even help a few others out here and there? That's what I care about. There's a lot of other things I care about, but that's one of them. That's why I do this show. Get involved. Take on the liberal social justice warriors because they have no clue why they're doing or what they're saying or why they're saying it. And you can program the responses. You'll know the response before they even get it out there because you know what they're going to say because that's all they've got. They haven't really thought things through because they don't have somebody to tell them what to write or how to write it or how to respond. So think about that. The cyber civil war will spill into the real world. It's just a matter of time, guys. Just a matter of time. Because eventually, are you going to be a drain? Well, most of them are a drain. That's true. They're going to do it. They're going to cross. Because when they start losing You get desperate. Desperate groups, desperate people will then start and say to do desperate things. It's just a matter of time. And they're coming. They're coming. All right. I said what I wanted to say to you tonight. I'd like you all, if you could, check out the SentinelintelGroup.com. SentinelintelGroup.com. That's Cyber Patriot. He's a friend here at CRN. He's getting started. If you want timely and interesting intel going on, you need to sign up with Cyber Patriot. Okay? The SentinelintelGroup.com. You'll see it there. All right. Well, I've got a few minutes left. So I want to thank all of you that managed to stop in tonight. Tim and Brian, Chuck, Mike, Gary, Contra Dawn, all of you, thanks for checking in tonight. I do appreciate it. Friday night will be the Contra Dawn show right here on CRN. If you want to do a show, you got an idea for a show, you want to do a show, by all means, get a hold of me. ContraRadio@live.com. ContraRadio@live.com. We'll talk about it. I'll help you get started, get you the right equipment. You can do it. This equipment is not expensive, guys, but you do have to put something out for it, okay? It's like Dawn found out. And they said, well, you're going to have to get a mixer board. So then you're able to get you the right, I'll tell you what plugs to get, tell you where to, plug them in so you can do the video feed and the radio show at the same time. And she went, huh? Yeah. Not a big deal. She'll take care of it in her own time. That much is true. Still searching, looking at different platforms. So bear with us. I want to say thanks to Brandon for his generous donation for monthly support on patreon.com here for Contra Radio Network. I urge you, if you are not donating, $2 a month, guys. Come on. $2 a month, patreon.com. Help support the show. You guys listen. You guys like it. I know you do. It's $2 a month. I mean, really. Am I asking so much? Am I asking too much? I don't think I am. Let me tell you something. Porky Wheel, Northern Ireland, sends money in through international mail to support the show. If he can do it in Northern Ireland, come on, guys. This is the land of plenty. We're asking for $2 a month. Oh, buy a Porky Wheel. He puts in more than $2 a month. Just so you know. I'm not going to say how much. That wouldn't be right. It'd be inappropriate, so I won't. All right. So I will be back next Wednesday night. Oh, but if something really interesting happens and pops up, I may end up doing a show. So make sure you like the CRN group page, the CRN like page. If I start doing a show, I usually post it on both those sites there. So that way you can go ahead and you can see our shows coming up very shortly. All right. That's it for tonight. For my proper and patriot friends, I say to you this. I want to say, be safe, be alert, and be vigilant. I'm John Jeffers here at the Contra Radio Network. Thanks for spending an hour with me tonight. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Thank you for using Blog.